A UN commission investigating last year's military conflict between Israel and Palestine has finally released its report. It's concluded that both sides may have committed war crimes during Operation Protective Edge, with a larger portion of that blame directed at Israel. According to investigators, the number of civilian casualties in last summer's conflict stands at almost 1,500 on the Palestinian side and only 6 on the Israeli side. RT correspondent Alexei Yarashevsky researched that report and is joining me now live with the details. So, Alexei, can you bring us more on this report, and what does it really say?
It is a 217-page report based on more than 700 interviews and accounts from people who witnessed the events of summer of last year. It was in the works for more than 6 months already, and its mission, according to one of its creators, Justice McGowan Davis, is not to lay the blame on one particular side of this conflict, but to expedite justice and to have some accountability for the alleged war crimes coming from both sides, and for that matter. Now, some statistics in that report are simply staggering. Now, if we look at the amount of actual missiles fired from both sides, it's pretty close, with 6,000 airstrikes conducted by the Israeli army and almost 5,000 missiles coming from the Palestinian side. But the death toll, the civilian death toll, is very, very different. While the report says almost 1,500 people were killed on the Palestinian side by the Israeli forces, 6 civilians were killed in that conflict on the Israeli side of the conflict. Now, that's one of the main points of the attention in this report, because the report specifically says that the Israeli army was using very wide-range missiles and weaponry, which basically using it's not a contradiction to any international law during a military conflict. But the problem is that these missiles may have been used in highly populated areas, and that is classified as a war crime. So this is something that the report was stressing on. One of the other issues is from the Palestinian side. This is not regarded as a war crime, but that Palestinian troops may have used human shields, namely firing their missiles from also highly populated areas in Gaza and in the West Bank, which is not a war crime, but is also a violation of international law. But one thing which has been indeed described as a war crime by the report is the admission by the Qassam brigades of Hamas that they have killed 21 collaborators in Palestine, those who have provided Israel with different sorts of information, and that is a definite war crime according to this report.
Now, Alexei, how about the two sides involved? How have they responded to the report's findings?
Well, the reaction coming from Israel was not a surprise at all. The Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, said on Monday afternoon that his country was not violating any international law. It was fighting terrorism, and it will continue to do so using all means, not violating international law. I mean, Israel's position on that report has been very negative from the very beginning. All different politicians in Israel have been accusing the commission which was assigned to do this report as being one-sided and biased. One of the prominent politicians in Israel even described this report as having blood on its hands. Now, the reaction coming from the other side, from Palestine, with its chief Palestinian negotiator, Saeb Erekat, said that this government would continue reviewing this report in line with staunch commitments to international law. And there was also a reaction coming from Hamas, who said that they welcomed the report, saying that it finally shed some light on the war crimes committed by Israel, but also at the same time they staunchly denied any participation of Palestinian troops in committing war crimes of their own, saying that there is a misrepresentation of who is the victim and who is the killer in this report. We'll, of course, wait for more reactions from both sides, but it seems that Israel is very, very unhappy with what is written in this report.
All right, thanks for that, Alexei. That was RT's correspondent Alexei Yarashevsky in the New York studio.